Hey y'all, it's Gord, your hurtin' hippie. It is finally Friday, and today we've got a whole mixed bag for you. First, something new. I'm going to be doing little disclaimers at the beginning. YouTube, this is EDSA, Educational Documentary, Scientific, or Artistic. This is not controversial. This is talking about news. This is having a discussion with my subscribers. So don't demonetize. This is getting tiring. And for the rest of you, let's push it off to me yesterday, right here, having a talk with you. And then we'll come back because we got to talk about personal cannabis use in Australia and what's happening with allowing people to use a legal product at our fairgrounds. The Calgary Stampede is coming, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Gordy again. You throw it to me at the most inopportune times. Hey y'all, it's Gord. It is something night. It's Thursday night, yeah. And I am having a lot of fun. I am adjusting. No, it's not a weather report. It's a Gord report. It's a hippie report. I'm adjusting to my separation anxiety, and I'm deciding to just grab this by the horns, and ride it. Enjoy it. Have fun. Strap on. It's a cold, rainy day, so I didn't go anywhere today, but I definitely stayed medicated, had fun looking at all your comments. One thing I like about kind of weed tube is that the audience is always accepting of the fact that the host might forget what he was talking about. What have I got going on? I've got some God Bud mixed with wax from Cannadis Finest, and just enjoying my evening. I'm going to throw it back to Gord in the morning because that's the guy who usually has the tough time. At night, once I medicate more, and lately I'm medicating. So I'm throwing this back to Gord. Take care, all of you. Thanks for being a part of my evening. I wanted to say hi. Hey, Gordy was a little bit over-medicated last night, and he has reason to be. Just to update y'all, he is me. Now, first of all, I know Joey's been waiting for this, and I'm going to do a little trip around the world and talk about all of this, but a couple of years ago, my good friend Joey in Australia, and shout out to a couple of you in Australia. I don't know the names offhand, but you guys are wonderful, and thank you for watching. You're a patient country of people. You're patient people in that country is probably the better way to say it. You waited a long time for a medical program that hasn't really come to fruition, and you're still waiting on legal. But I've got a fairly good article here that I'm going to share with you. It's from FinFeed, and it's from an Australian point of view, and a little bit difficult to read because of my eyes. So, you're an old man when you got to put on your glasses to read to people. When it comes to cannabis legislation, Australia is falling behind. While medical cannabis products are available, they're not easily accessible. More than 2 years after being legalized nationwide, access remains severely restricted, with patients having to jump through hoops to access cannabis products. Shame, shame, shame on you, Australia. But it's not just the medicinal cannabis space where we are lacking. Remember, this is written in Australia. We are lacking. The legislation of cannabis for personal use is already a reality in Canada, Uruguay, Poland, and in multiple U.S. states, while it's been decriminalized in many more. And while not yet over the line, New Zealand is a step ahead of Australia too. New Zealand is due to hold a referendum on the legalization of cannabis for personal use next year, with polls suggesting that at least 65% of New Zealanders support legalizing. So they're probably next. Yet a local push for legalization of recreational cannabis in Australia is gaining momentum. For some time, the Australian Greens have been advocating for full decriminalization and legalization of the drug. The party says a legal and regulated cannabis industry would smash the business model of criminal gangs overnight, putting $2 billion into the economy every year to go towards our schools, hospitals, and essential services. I'm going to link this below. With 1/3 of Australians who consume cannabis, there's a strong argument why it should be licensed and regulated like other drugs, such as, and arguably more dangerous, alcohol, instead of being dealt with by the criminal justice system. Same old stories, just a new country. And as usual, common sense will lead out. More and more countries are getting the information behind them. I can't see myself. The information behind them to back up the claims. More and more legalization is proving fruitful. So, Australia, I know you're not far behind. You need to go after your members of parliament. Remember, you're a member of the Commonwealth. You're a sister to Canada. If we can do it, you can do it. And my friends, I had something else I wanted to share. But first, please take a look up here. There is the link to my Q&A. If you haven't asked a Q, I can't give you the A. You know? So please check that link, come back, watch the rest of this show, but check that link, save it for later. Right click it, open a new tab, and let it sit there until you're finished watching the hippie. To go and watch the hippie. I love your questions, can't wait to answer them. And yes, YouTube, for some reason, demonetized that video, me asking you guys to ask me questions, and I appealed, and they turned down my appeal with the same old something in your title, your video, your data or your metadata or your tags does not meet our guidelines. Something. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you. Second point, for all of those who are against the legalization or say legalization does not work, is not working, it has too many rules. This is one of those, be patient, it'll happen. For those who don't know, starting today is the Calgary Stampede. It's our yearly fair that goes on for 10 days. It's got a fairs ground and beer tents and you name it, it goes on for over a week, people getting drunk, people having fun, and this year, cannabis is legal, and this year, our Calgary Stampede grounds have announced we are a gathering place for communities and families, and with the scale of the park, we've just made the decision to prohibit cannabis on the park. You can bring cannabis into the park, but you have to exit the gate to use it, both recreational and medical. But let me say this. Leaving the park to medicate is not always an option for those who are severely ill, and it violates Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms and says the club has been pressing the Stampede to make changes. The Stampede has come back and said, we understand that it's legal, but we're not prepared. We don't know how to do it. I do think they're going to face a lot of backlash from people. Everywhere you go on the Stampede grounds, you will find a beer tent. A cordoned off place where adults can go, no minors, and drink beer and soft liquor. They can have wines. They can have a few different drinks. I don't think they sell hard liquor there at all. Doesn't matter. They're selling liquor. But they tell you if you want to have cannabis, you got to leave the grounds, which is quite a long walk, go smoke it and come back. And cannabis follows the same rules in the same group as alcohol right across every province of Canada. It follows the same rules. So it's legal for adults in cordoned off areas, and they won't do it. So I think this is going to look bad on them. I think there are we're going to see this as these big events start taking place and tokers stand beside legal drinking places and have to go hide to have their legal thing that is less dangerous. Funny? Not really. Wrong? Totally. Expected? Yes. And that's where I come in and say, let's not get too mad. Let's stand up. Let's fight for what's right. Let's say what's right and force it upon people. But understand that some of these things take time. A group or a couple of groups will take the Calgary Stampede to court. A judge will say, oh, Stampede, you were wrong. You should have been prepared. The law changed last year. It's now this year. You should have been prepared. So it'll happen. It's just, I've always said, when legalization happens, it's going to be 4 to 5 years of challenging certain regulations, new regulations coming in, old regulations becoming defunct because they make no sense because the world is changing. So that's just a good example of here we are, we're legal, but if I go to the Stampede, which I will not, if we go to the Stampede, I can take my medicine with me, but if I have a toke, I'm going to be removed from the grounds. Absolutely amazing. Calgary Stampede, grow up. So friends, we're on to our little known facts, Cliff Clavin edition. The last one was on the Swiss Army knife, kind of stupid, but that's okay. Cliff was the super smart, stupid man. If you were to go back in history and take every president, you'll find that the numerical value of each letter in their name was equally divisible into the year in which they were elected. By my calculations, our next president has to be named Yelnik Mkwawa. Yelnik Mkwawa, you're going to take over from Trump? Peace and cheers, friends. Love and harmony. Catch ya on that other side.